Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and the 50th year celebration, and and specifically the recent podcast, really, with Jason Alexander and with Peter Tilden, and I'll talk about who they are in a minute, and then John Peterson. So let me define all three of these people because it's important to understand. And this is an extremely important podcast, which I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but there really are important podcasts. All right, let's jump into it. Okay, here we go. So Jason Alexander, that is George Costanza from Seinfeld. And boy, oh boy, did that guy hit the lottery with a ticket he wrote himself, right? George Costanza, like Jason Alexander. If you look at that guy, you're not like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to make a ton of money. He's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars in his Hollywood career. You're like, oh, he's going to be a bit actor and make dirt, right? Like, it's like, but it was wrong. Like he made hundreds of millions. He was on Seinfeld. He was extremely good on it, and he get this. Okay, Seinfeld. I think it's near the levels of Friends. When not Matt LeBlanc, when the guy who played Chandler, right, recently passed. They did some research and they found that he was collecting a $20 million check every year from Friends. That's today, right? Like that's astonishing, right? Jason Alexander is making bank on Seinfeld, right? One of the richest people in Hollywood. Like it's incredible, right? So he has this podcast, and it's clear he's not. Actually, he even said it. The person who's doing the work on the podcast is Peter Tilden, right? Peter Tilden is a movie producer, okay? Just like, and not even really, actually, he's worked consistently, right? But none of his material has ever done extremely well, right? But he is a real Hollywood movie producer, right? That's what Peter Tilden is. And now he's producing this podcast with Jason Alexander, and there's like 85 episodes. And guess what? Dungeons and Dragons made the cut, right? So these two guys, they go and talk to John Peterson. Now, who's John Peterson? He's one of these guys who's saying, hey, I'm a real Dungeons and Dragons expert, right? And he did a book called Playing at the World. Now, I have to admit, I'm gonna talk about my own bias for a minute here, right? I despise all academic writing on Dungeons and Dragons because I don't think that even one single article or one single book has told the truth about Lorraine Williams. They're all like, oh, Lorraine Williams ran TSR into the dirt, right? No, that's not the story. Lorraine Williams, more than Gary Gygax, rescued Dungeons and Dragons from Gary Gygax's destructive 1986 self, right? Gary built Dungeons and Dragons for 12 years, 1974 to 1986. In 1986, in my humble opinion, Gary Gygax lost all control of himself and had no ability to be the creative or the commercial leader of Dungeons and Dragons. And Lorraine Williams swooped in, and for 11 years, first thing she did was rescue it from Gary Gygax's outrageously destructive behavior, right? He went to Hollywood in 1983, got a real bad habit. Okay? All right? And he didn't have control of himself, let alone control of Dungeons and Dragons, right? And Lorraine handpicked, this is the part they never tell you about Lorraine Williams, handpicked by Gary Gygax, rescued it, and then imbued Dungeons and Dragons with so much value, right, that it was bought by people who could buy yachts. And that's not a joke, that's real, right? Like, and so what she really did was, TSR was a paper cup, right? The drink was the important thing, right? TSR was just a paper cup that held Dungeons and Dragons. And guess what? I got a little secret for you. Hasbro a paper cup too. And they better be very careful, right? Like, this is the part that people don't understand. If you own Dungeons and Dragons, it owns you, right? The people just do not understand that. There has never been an intellectual property like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Last year, there was a rumor that a $500 billion, right, international conglomerate was considering purchasing it, right? Hasbro had to literally make a statement and say, no, it's not going to happen. It's astounding. Like, things happen on it and don't happen anywhere. Let me stay focused. So John Peterson comes in, And I would like. Here's the issue. He's the bog standard Lorraine Williams killer, like reputation killer. He's a middle-aged white guy. Boy, they detest the fact that there was a queen of Dungeons and Dragons for 11 years, right? So I don't want to completely lump him in with that group, but I am extremely frustrated that at this point, not one person has told the true history of Lorraine Williams. And I count John Peterson in that group, right? I really despise Ben Grimm. I think he's done absolutely abominable work and really done an incredible amount of destruction to Lorraine Williams' reputation, right? With his slaying the dragon. Who do you think the dragon is? Yeah, it was Ben Grimm coming to do another hatchet job on Lorraine Williams. Okay, let me stay focused. Sorry. John Peterson is actually doing real academic work. Now, the important part here is all three of these guys to get together on a podcast. And the reason why is they are literally having an extremely in-depth conversation about Dungeons & Dragons because of the 50th year celebration. And my point to you is absolutely nothing on the OSR, nothing on the indie side has ever even remotely done anything like this. You're never going to hear a Hollywood celebrity talking about OSC. You're never going to hear a Hollywood celebrity talking about Shadowdark. It doesn't happen, right? Dungeons & Dragons truly is special. When I say it's the best tabletop role-playing experience in the world, there's real evidence to point to that, right? And the OSR and indie games just, they don't deliver. They pretend they do. They complain like they do, but they don't, right? So, so MCDM can make his little, competitor game, Draw Steel, and Tales of the Valiant, abominable name, can, walk out, like, oh, here I am, everyone, buy me, right? And Daggerheart they can all waltz around, but nobody's talking about them. Nobody. You're not having people who have hundreds of millions of dollars have legitimate conversations with experts on the subject. It does not happen on OSR and indie, right? They talk about like their competitors, but they're not. They're not real competitors, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.